Hey everybody, welcome to Connections Youth Ministry. I'm so glad you're here tonight. You haven't seen me for a few weeks, so Crystal and I have been off having babies and being at hospitals and going to cabins and stuff, so it's great to be back, and I hope that you get to meet Liliana really soon. But while I was away, you had some amazing leaders that filled in and did all the responsibilities. So I just want to thank them right now, and I want you to thank them. So on the count of three, I want you to yell thank you to your leaders as loud as you possibly can. So on the count of three, we're going to yell together. 1, 2, 3. Thank you! Good. Okay, thank you leaders for doing everything you did over the last few weeks. I really appreciate it. You guys are incredible. One quick announcement before we get into the message. You should get this tonight. It's a fall fun day little questionnaire. I have a few questions for you. I'd love to do an activity as a whole youth group sometime in November or December. And I want to know what do you guys want to do? What do you want to do for fun? Do you want to go to the Mall of America? Do you want to go to Zero Gravity? Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? I'm thinking something that's not super expensive, something that everybody can do. But here's the important question. What is it that you would want to invite your friends that don't come to church? What is it that you would like to invite them to come do? Okay, so fill out this little piece of paper, hand it into the leaders by the end of the night. If you'll open up your Bibles to Nehemiah chapter 7 is where we're at tonight. The church at Connections, we've still been studying through this book, and so we continue in it tonight. And I'm just going to read 3 quick verses. And I want us to see what is going on in this scene, what's going on with Nehemiah at this point in the story. And it's fascinating. I think there's a really, really important point that needs to be made tonight. Go to Nehemiah chapter 7 and read verses 1 through 3 with me. It goes like this. After the wall was finished, and I had set up the doors in the gates, this is Nehemiah talking, the gatekeepers, singers, and Levites were appointed. I gave the responsibilities of governing Jerusalem to my brother Hananiah, along with Hananiah, the commander of the fortress, for he was a faithful man who feared God more than most. Now verse 3 I think is the most important thing we can look at tonight. It goes like this. I said to them, do not leave the gates open during the hottest part of the day, and even while the gatekeepers are on duty, have them shut and bar the doors. Appoint the residents of Jerusalem to act as guards, everyone on a regular watch. Some will serve at sentry posts, and some in front of their own homes. So you may have read that and said, great, I have no idea what that means. I don't have anybody that stands guard outside of my house. What are you trying to get at? Here's the point. The wall that Nehemiah was rebuilding in Jerusalem is finally done. So this is huge. The wall is done, and yet he says we have to keep watch. We have to have soldiers. We have to be on guard because our enemies are still out there. Read with me quick. The chapter behind this, chapter 6, verses 15 and 16, says this. So on October 2nd, the wall was finished, just 52 days after we had begun. When our enemies and the surrounding nations heard about it, they were frightened and humiliated, and they realized this work had been done with the help of our God. Okay, so this is great. This is a huge celebration. They finished the wall in 52 days. Everything seems to be going great. They finally overcame their enemies. However, chapter 7, verse 3 tells us that Nehemiah still set up guards, and he still had gatekeepers. And he said, don't open the gates during the hot of the day, and keep watch over Jerusalem regularly. Why would he do this? Because here's the reality. Because Nehemiah understands that the enemy is always there. The enemy always wants to kill, steal, and destroy. We can never get relaxed. We can never retire. We don't get the option to go to sleep in peace because there's an enemy outside of our door. Now, this is an important principle, I think, for you and I to realize tonight. And here's what I want us to see. is that your weakest moment is when you're most relaxed and you're most confident. Let me say that again. Your weakest moment is when you're most relaxed and most confident. When you least expect that Satan is going to tempt you, that you are going to get beat up, is when you're most confident and most relaxed. I've seen this happen time and time again in my life. I'm guessing you've seen it in yours. Satan loves it when we get comfortable. When we feel like the walls are built, we're on safe ground, we've fought a fight, and we're safe now. That's when Satan loves to tempt us, because we're relaxed and we're lazy. I want to read for you a really crazy story. It's about, you're going to think this is really random, but the story, I found this article, it's about a slaughterhouse and how they kill the cows that eventually turn into the ground beef that you and I love to eat, okay? You think this is a really random story, but I think you'll understand the point of it. And the new technology that they've come up with to make the cows feel very, very comfortable until the last second. It says this: scientists have devised a new technology that has revolutionized the ways of the big slaughter operations. In this system, the cows aren't prodded off of the truck bed, but rather they're led in silence onto a ramp. They go through a squeeze chute, a gentle pressure device that mimics a mother's nuzzle touch. The cattle continue down the ramp onto a smooth, curving path. There are no sudden turns. The cows experience the sensation of going home, the same kind of way they've traveled so many times before. So you get this picture of the cattle that are put on a truck, are gently led off of this truck into the slaughterhouse, never expecting anything negative to happen to them. As they mosey along the path, they don't even notice that their hooves are no longer touching the ground. A conveyor belt slowly lifts them gently upward, and then, in the twinkling of an eye, a blunt instrument levels a surgical strike right between their eyes. They're transitioned from livestock to meat, and they never are aware enough to be alarmed of any of it. The pioneer of this technology commends it to the slaughterhouse and affectionately gives it the nickname, the Stairway to Heaven. Okay, so you might think, that was a really gross and random story. But here's the reality. We live in a slaughterhouse world. You and I are told to have comforts, to have ease. We are told to make it as simple and easy as possible. No matter what, just take the easy road. And all the while, I think Satan loves it when we're comfortable. Loves it when we relax. Loves it when we think the walls are built and we can sit back. Because we'll be like those cattle that slowly get off the truck, slowly get lifted into the air, and in a second are destroyed. And a whole while, they didn't even realize it. In a moment, I'm going to have you watch a YouTube video of a song by Casting Crowns called Slow Fade. You may have heard it before. But the reality is this, that we do not crumble in a day. We don't just make the worst decisions of our lives in one day. All of a sudden it was great and then it went horrible. These things happen over time as we get relaxed and we get lazy. When I first started as a youth pastor 5 years ago in Cambridge, I had lunch with a bunch of youth pastors. There was another guy there named Mark, coincidence, and he worked with Young Life at the high school, very similar to Campus Crusade at Anoka. This was in Cambridge. His name was Mark. He worked with Young Life. I met him once, and a week or two later, he was on the news. And the Young Life in Cambridge had been closed down, and his truck had been confiscated, and I didn't realize what had happened until I read the paper the next day or watched the news, whatever it was. It turns out that Mark, for quite a while, several months, had had an inappropriate relationship with a 16-year-old girl. Mark was 52 years old, and she was 16, and she was in his youth ministry. And this is an example to me of a slow fade. as the story played out, this didn't happen overnight. This happened over a couple of years of their friendship turning into a relationship and then going south. And this girl's life has been destroyed. I've met her, I know her. He's been in prison because he made a choice to be relaxed, to be comfortable, and to let down his guard. In the book of 1 Peter in the New Testament, will you turn there with me before we finish? In the book of 1 Peter in the New Testament, Peter says this to the Christians that are reading his letter. 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 8. He says, "Stay alert. Watch out for your great enemy, the devil. He prowls around like a roaring lion, looking for someone to devour." So we get this picture of Satan walking around like a lion, waiting to destroy you. And what does he say to do? In order to stop that, the first two words are stay alert. And this is what Nehemiah does as they finish the walls. He says, we can't give up. We have to stay alert. So I have 3 questions for you to discuss in your groups. Here's how they go. One is this: where have you started to get lazy? Where have you let down your guard? Like in the 2 stories that I shared, where have you just kind of let small things happen that maybe turn into bigger things, but you've relaxed your standards, your boundaries, what you will and will not do? Where have you gotten lazy? The second question is this: think of a big mistake, a big problem that you had or a decision that you made, and it was a bad decision. You made a huge mistake. What were the decisions that led to that moment? Because it didn't happen only in that moment. It happened over a series of poor decisions that you made. And I want you to try to think about that and look back and go, okay, if I had made this decision differently and this decision differently and this decision, I wouldn't have ended up in that same position. Third question is this: what defenses do you need to put up? What boundaries do you need to put in place so that this doesn't happen again? So that the stories I share don't happen to you? So that you don't need to be a statistic of Christians or people that make gigantic mistakes with their lives because they made poor decision after poor decision after poor decision. What boundaries do you need to put in place? What defenses do you need to put up in order that you don't have a slow fade into failure? I'll see you next time.